So today we're going to talk about building positive atmosphere online. And before we move on, I'd like to make a small intro. Surprisingly, in my life, cautiously and deliberately, I was working on this topic only recently. But there were the situations and the teams that were kind of bringing me at that place. And it first happened, let me hide myself. If you want to turn on cameras, I will be happy as well. So don't hesitate if you want to. Yeah, so it all started when we decided to organize a speaking club. I was at the third year of studies at the university. And at university, you're very motivated, you have lots of energy, but not that much news. And the speaking club was aimed at people who have the language barrier. In Ukraine, it's a very widespread situation. You're learning for like 10 years, but then you're afraid even to ask for a coffee. So apparently what we needed to do to have people overcome this fear was actually coaching that mistakes are good when you're learning, that shaping the safety atmosphere, coaching that it takes time to learn stuff. And of course, last but not least, having a lot of fun. So you engage the people and they forget that they're afraid, that they're into the process. Of course, as a student, we had no idea that this term of safety atmosphere exists, to tell the truth. And we had a very vague understanding of coaching. But now I know that that's what we were at least trying to do. So here, everything's easy. Yeah. Nothing challenging. But what happens if you do something more complicated? After that, we opened our courses, and it was not only about the fun anymore. It was hardcore, it was material to learn. And we were really surprised that this having fun and having positive atmosphere still helped. It was not that easy as before, but it was fruitful. We were modeling situations that are similar to reality. We were trying to leave the space for creativity so people do not only learn, but they can relax after a long working day or lectures. And yeah, now I also know that it's called experience-based learning, and that helps a lot when you are making training at any kind of work. So life goes on, and then I moved to IT and I worked in different positions. I don't want to bore you with that. I worked at startup, actually leading Bavarian startup with clients like Audi and Siemens. I worked at outsourcing, who hasn't? Now I actually work at Big Corp, at SimCorp. That's the company that serves other big corps like AXA and other leading insurance companies, central banks. And what is weird is that I'm still the same. And of course, now I know what coaching means, but the approach to work remains, and it remained topical in all my teams. So that is why, that is how I learned that the most creative, the most efficient work result is born when having fun. And never with serious faces. And that is why we are here now. And first, I would suggest to go through what we mean under positive atmosphere, because, it can be different in our heads. And then to go with the recipe, how we can arrive there. I try to find examples, so it's not only, find cool words like you have to trust and all this stuff, but actually how you can do it. And it will be applicable both if you're building teams from scratch, like I did at the startup, or if you're introducing the change, at big corps, no way, without change all the time. Actually, it's already 6 years when I'm working remotely and with distributed teams. So actually, I don't know how it works other ways. So hopefully it will be topical for you. So first, what's the positive atmosphere? Once upon a time, apparently it was no Corona time, because we were preparing the offline gathering, which I really miss, and it's really important to have them from time to time. That was a startup time, and we had all the chances to organize everything we want. So workshops, hackathons, team buildings. We arrive at the place, and what happens? Instead of team building a rainy quest in a forest on Zhytomyrska metro station with people who don't know how the quest should be resolved. And what's even worse, we failed to release on time. And instead of hackathon, we actually had to fix bugs all the time, most of the days. You can imagine how the team felt, right? So it's easy to imagine the situation where people are sitting silently, calling their wives or husband, "Oh, honey, I'm not going to do any hackathons. I'm fixing bugs." Maybe blaming, like, we didn't get this server we were asking for, or someone did these bugs, or whatever. Very easy to imagine. I think you've been there, and I've been there too. But surprisingly, at that very case, it didn't happen. And actually, it was difficult for me to find the previous photo because on most of them, we were really happy. And if you enter the room, the people were like at the hackathon. So what are the characteristics of those teams? First of all, you're going to be surprised, but this is optimism. This is still the same optimism. People are focused on how to solve. They're managing to having fun, and they focus on the challenge themselves. Yeah, so they're trying to think, what can they do? What if we fix that stuff till Wednesday and then we'll still have some hackathon time? How can we do it better? And the characteristic is you won't hear something like, "Come on, we're all over again, we'll never deliver it." We would rather hear something like, "Let's see, maybe we can try this and this." Yeah, so totally different rhetorics. If you don't believe me yet that optimism is true, just to remind that it's proved by biologists, and you can Google it. Optimists do not only live better, they also live longer. So that's the first thing. However, it's important to remember that optimist doesn't mean stupid, right? So we still have to talk about the risks. We still have to talk about the wrong decisions. We still have retrospections. And we are honest if we see any problems, and we trust each other to speak it up. Another characteristics. Even when it's hard, people enjoyed it because there was no blame, and instead there was support. So it's cool to hear something like, if a person provides some suggestion that doesn't make any sense, it's very important to say, I see your point, it's a great suggestion, but in this case, but let's take a look at the risks. And then thank the person for suggesting it. Yeah, because if you just criticize, the person is not gonna suggest further. So it's not cool, and it's not a characteristic of any kind of positive atmosphere team to hear who submitted this code. Now, because of him, we need to fix it. We'll never give her this work to do again. What? That's not gonna work. Yeah, so anti-characteristic. Such teams are eager to learn. It's much more easier to find such teams at organizations with no expert authority. So at the organizations when they do not rely on, he's a tech lead, he knows how to do. He's a team lead, you tell what he says. No, they use the team power, and they do not look at the hierarchy when they are trying to search for the solutions. We were talking about lots of safety characteristics before, but let me remind you very quickly. So the team is also not afraid to make mistakes. It's easy for them to acknowledge if they're doing something wrong. They're confident enough to share their opinion, and they don't hold back. So if on one-on-one you hear something that people were in doubt to share in a group, yeah, you're in a trouble. So to sum up, healthy optimism, honesty and trust, support, no blame, people eager to learn, and safety, of course. Now we're without it. Finally, cool beans, how do we get there? Yeah, because I think there were not that many surprises at the first part of the presentation for you. So the first point is praise and appreciation. So you model the situations when people are likely to express praise and appreciation. It's especially important in Ukrainian culture, and especially important, for example, at German culture. We are not raised this way. We do not say you're cool by default. Yeah, so that's why we need to do more work. Praise and appreciation, sponsor of honesty and trust, and the antidote of blame. So first of all, again, nothing new for you, I think. We are setting an example. We start gradually, and we balance it with constructive critics, because if you're praising without a reason, yeah, you don't have any any result on that. Then you coach colleagues, and you start with leaders, and you make it a trend. And then, of course, you support this trend, right? So examples that I promised you before. For example, at one of the recent hackathons, as you could have noticed, I like hackathons, a lot of fun. We had a situation when we asked for feedback, and one of the guys said that actually the hackathon didn't meet any expectations. He wanted to code. He was expecting to have some deliverable, but didn't work. But then we asked very similar, very simple questions. Did you learn anything? And the guy answered, yeah, actually, I learned a lot. I didn't know this and this, and I'm going to use it. And then the people who were preparing the hackathon, they were having a breath with release. Yeah, so they were really happy to hear that. And it was very easy to model it. Now the example, onboarding. Onboarding is overall a great opportunity for you to boost some kind of cultural aspects you wanna, because you have a new person, and you can also have your teammates to behave in a nice way so they look good at the new person. It works very well to have feedback sessions on a regular basis when you onboard people, and also to keep it doing after the onboarding if it's just 3 months. So you have a plan for a person, and then you go through it and you praise for good deliverables, and you also show if the person overperformed. Sounds very easy, but if you don't do it, if you just go with the stream, you can lose it. If your leaders do not give feedback by default, we should ask for it, and we should ask for a specific one. If at the end of the sprint review or a demo, you ask for feedback and everyone says, "Oh, good job, team. Thank you for that." And that's it. Of course, it's not going to affect the mood a lot, right? So you can always ask specific questions. How will it be used? How does it affect our sales? What are your next steps? What are your conclusions? And then you are more likely to get praise for something specific. Next, get a feedback scale for your culture. So if you're at the international team, it's very important to see how different nationalities are used to give feedback. For example, awesome from American doesn't mean really awesome. It can mean just nice. Yeah. For a German, especially Northern German, if they say that it's okay, it's not bad, it means it's really awesome, not even close to American awesome. And I think I should not tell you about Ukrainians. Yeah, we usually, if you're not coached, if you're not trained, we're usually making it a bit lower. Very easy, yeah, you just make it transparent and it helps. The next one. Point out the impact of work. Yeah, so when you repeat the positive and negative user feedback, and when you give people the sense of influence that, hey, that was bad before, but now we did this and that's good, that really helps. And last but not least, for today, if you're talking about the remote setup, you have less this coffee talks, this kind of stuff. So it's important to have more one-on-ones. You, of course, do not schedule them as one-on-ones. It's better to be topic related. Let's work together on this, or let's discuss this and this. But it's important to have it on a regular basis, and it's important to foster it between the teammates. Yes, it's not only about you as a leader of a team. Okay, ready to move on. Trust. So before talking about how to boost trust, let's talk how to destroy it, yeah, and why it's usually destroyed. So first, unconstructive general feedback. Something like, your code is not good. Your meetings are not well organized. That doesn't help. You hurt person's feeling, they don't know what to work on, and that undermines trust. They don't know what to do next with it. Unclear rules of the game. That's awful. When they don't know what is a good behavior, what is a good stuff to do, what's not. Today I'm submitting code in such a format, it's good, tomorrow it's not. Or yesterday at the meeting we did this. If you have unclear rules of the game, it's really counterproductive. Questioning approaches to work. Especially topical for people who have been developers or testers or whoever before, and now you're into management or leading roles. It's so cool to come and help to do something, right? But yeah, we should not do that. Yeah, we should trust people to do their work. They need time to make their own mistakes. Otherwise, you lose trust and they move into that competing mode. Yeah, and sarcasm. Before I read Carnegie, I was actually a fan of sarcasm, but then I learned that for some reason I'm doing it only with people who I don't care too much about. Yeah, and I realized that it's a very bad weapon. Humor, yes. Sarcasm, no. You're hurting people's feeling. You're undermining them. That doesn't help. So, how to boost trust? Yeah, set clear borders, clear rules of the game, boost the sense of responsibility. That's what you're responsible for. That's how you know if you're succeeding or not. Trust in people with their decisions, yeah, not micromanagement. And as a result, share important information across the company. At the examples, I will talk more about this sharing information. So especially if you're working at a big company, but actually we faced it at the startup mode as well. It's very difficult to come across to get across the important information. And it's very difficult to provide transparency about your decisions. So there are some tools that can help you, and OKR is a good example because you're setting the objectives for the company. You have very clear and concise criteria to track them. And then you have like this ladder with the teams adjusting their goals. Yeah, so you're killing lots of the birds here with this one stone. But it's also important to have the leaders to do the homework, because if you come to the team and ask for the OKR, well, that is not good. Yeah, you have to provide the OKRs for the company, for the department before. Otherwise, it's counterproductive. It's like implementing Scrum without sprint reviews. There should be no chance for gossips. Yeah, if you're informing about something important, it's better to do it at a meeting. If you don't have time to get everyone recorded, but do not text. Explain that why and repeat this message so it really reaches everyone. Again, also important at bigger companies, but easy to forget even if you're working at a small one. Transparent remuneration schema and clear responsibilities for the people's roles. If you're coaching someone, you're coaching them into a leader, they're doing lots of new stuff, they're running workshops, but then they don't get paid for it. Well, that is not good, right? So there should be a very clear picture why, who gets what bonuses, because otherwise, again, you'll get into this competing structure. Yeah, and as you see from the examples, the system coaching is really necessary here. It's very often not something you can do as a Scrum Master or project manager. However, even just reflecting it to the people, making it visible is also helpful. Yeah, so if you say, okay, it's not only you who doesn't get the remuneration schema, it's everyone, you have less of this competing stuff and you have more trust inside the team. That's my favorite slide. Non-verbal positive vibes, especially important when you're working online. So imagine the situation. Actually, it's very easy to imagine even today. Yeah, you enter the meeting with your team. Everyone, no cameras, no mics. You say, "Hey, hello, everyone," and then you hear nothing. Are you having a good mood to work further at this meeting? No, you're not. Yeah, so it's important to work with this stuff. It's not only about positive words. Definitely, not only about that. Smile, gestures, mimics, we really miss it when we are working remotely. I actually miss it a lot now when talking to you. Um, that's important, and it's also important to communicate it to your team. We are all human beings, and we cannot without it. Being active, yeah. So people are mirroring you. If you're facilitating a meeting, and if you're in a very calm mood, if you're tired, um, and it's visible, then others are likely to do the same, because again, it's our nature. Be remember about that, and yeah, be active. Wake people up, make the icebreakers, something easy, something that will be nice for them. um, it can be anything. The main thing is that the team likes it. If they talk at the beginning of the meeting, they are likely to talk later. And last but not least, small talks. We can have a lot of them when we're working offline. But when we're working online, we have to give some space for small talks at the meeting. Make your regular meetings longer and allow people to talk about stuff. Um, have this greeting, ask about what they see in their window, what is in their fridge, whatever works for you. Usually, you have some people at the team who are naturally just going into that, so don't stop them, vice versa. Boost it. For some teams, I think everyone knows this virtual coffees and bars works in a different way. For some teams, it's better to have some topics, not just a coffee, so that they come. Experiment and find your way, but don't forget about it. Because now, when we cannot meet, that's getting even more important. I'm not going to talk too much about the toxins. You can read. Those are this Gottman's four toxins with their antidotes. I would just like to remind you about them. And if you haven't read, please do that. It helps you to detect what's happening at the team. It helps you to explain to the team. Very often when you just share it, they change their behavior. And it gives you also antidotes. Just one example, if you have a pattern that someone is blaming others, yeah, and other person is in, let's say, stonewalling. Stonewalling is just ignoring, yeah, do whatever you want. I will leave, I don't care. You can use this, for example, curiosity, yeah, and rather ask, like, why are you blaming the person? No, it's not what you're asking. You're rather asking, why are you not satisfied? Yeah, so you're digging deeper. When you are having people, for example, in the defensive role, you can also talk to them and uh, give them some advice how not to get into these positions when you're defending your approach, your territory, but how you actually move to this common decision making and common goal. Yeah, if you're having problems with that, yeah, all the slides before wouldn't help first. Yeah, you would need to deal with that. Okay, knowledge sharing culture. Um, I could talk a lot about how to make this, how to install this culture at the company. And if you're interested, you can read from the barcode, and there are articles how you can do it in a small and a bigger company. We don't have time. So that's why I'll give you some examples what you can do on a team level. Something easy breezy. Mob programming. If you haven't heard, that's when one person's sharing the screen, texting, writing the code. Another person, second person is dictating. Nobody else can talk. Others are watching, and then you change the roles. lots of fun, nice knowledge share about the coding practices, helps, works like a charm. Interest groups, communities of practices, can be not only around the work, it can be also sports and music. And around the work, you can combine it with coaching your future leaders, and it empowers people. And yeah, you're gonna have best early adopters out of that people. Pair programming. What I noticed, especially when we moved to the quarantine at SimCorp, offline people are less likely to pair program. But if you're moving online, that has to be the main practice. Even if you think that the code is simple, very important, because that's how you make sure that you don't lose the knowledge that otherwise would be just shared in the room. Trainings organized by mates. So fashionable to invite external experts. But what about asking our people to learn something very well and to share it to others? Also, great initiative. And the last one for today is pair code reviews. Same like pair programming, but you sit together and one person or two are reviewing the code and comment that. It's not only about the code, you can do other stuff. Yeah, so it's not that specific. You can work on the same document if it's some challenging part. Yeah, so interested in company level, read further. And that's it for today. Thanks a lot for listening. Дякую.
Дякую, Юля, за цікаву доповідь. Було дуже цікаво і корисно. І ми на цьому закінчуємо третій день нашого марафону. І зустрінемося з усіма у вівторок наступний о 7 годині. Всім дякую за увагу. Давайте подякуємо Юлі, ще напишемо, чи було цікаво, чи ні, і якийсь зворотній зв'язок в чат, або поставимо якийсь от такий значок, або такий значок. Щоб можна було.
Хочу дякувати за те, що продавили, і все-таки англійською була презентація. Ви молодець.
Дякую.
Дякую, було дуже пізнавально.
Дуже дякую. Всім гарного вечора. Зустрічаємося наступного разу, вівторок, в 7 годині вечора.